Hello and welcome to this episode of Scope. I'm Tracy Pa. Hosted from the 1st to 4th of July, a 4-day event incorporating the Community Affair and National Content Conference and Expo, PNG Resources Career Fair and PNG Resources Week, surrounding the theme of building on our legacy, PNG Resources and Energy. The first 3 days of the program, hosted at the University of Papua New Guinea's Waigani campus, focus on the rapidly growing initiative of national content. Private sector representatives, non-government organizations, development partners and state entities participated in panel discussions highlighting critical development areas of health, education and collaboration between all relevant stakeholders to achieve a better result for the people of Papua New Guinea.
Outlining the National Health Strategy and exploring potential inspiration and collaboration between the resource sector and the National Department of Health, Minister for Health Dr. Lino Tom highlighted Papua New Guinea, a country rich in natural resources. A growing resource sector is declining in regards to its health indicators. Dr. Lino said the extraction of PNG's natural resources has brought about economic growth. Despite job opportunities and new infrastructure, the health of the community suffers. This he describes as the resource curse. Dr. Lino stated the negative outcomes on health due to the exploitation of resources include water pollution, air and land contamination, accidents and injuries. The resource sector's activities such as mining, drilling and deforestation can also have far-reaching consequences on the environment and public health. Dr. Lino further highlighted the strategies of government in terms of improving and increasing the numbers of doctors and healthcare workers in the country.
The government needs to trim down. We should cut away all the rest. It's not the primary role of the government to be in business. We should cut some of those SOEs out and really concentrate on looking after the core services like health, in saying that we should provide better incentives, we should provide better housing, we should provide protection around. And it's actually a big problem, looking after health workforce throughout the world. And, other countries are ramping up. And as a country, we need to do that. So to approach that as the current minister, increasing the number of health workforce, number of doctors is one of the most important things we are doing. And through the current government, there's a policy in space to establish a new medical university so that the agenda is driven. And it's a long-term strategy. If you look at short-term strategy, we really need to look at the doctor awards and make sure we have better working conditions for them. That's the only way we can compete. It's quite difficult to compete with rich countries. And when given the opportunity, people will move.
Dr. Lino appealed to those present as leaders within the resource sector and their communities to wield the power to catalyze broader change, to ensure socially sustainable resource management while mitigating harms to public health and the environment. Dr. Lino made some suggestions. The health minister called upon the resource sector to work in collaboration with local communities and the National Department of Health to address the complex challenges associated with resource over-extraction. Sustainable development practices, community engagement, health impact assessments, environmental regulations are essential tools that can be used to mitigate the direct and indirect impacts associated with resource extraction. Dr. Lino stressed to the resource sector the well-being of Papua New Guinea's people and environment is a corporate social responsibility. Non-government organizations such as the Kokoda Track Foundation and PNG Sustainable Development Program, who collaborate closely, highlighted to CanCo Next their efforts in the critical sectors of education and health.
Health, equality and leadership, and these of course are three critical parts of the ecosystem of healthy and thriving communities. The SDP KTF partnership has focused on the full spectrum of schooling. This includes supporting the Western Division of Education to introduce early childhood education policy to the province, and we work with over 40 elementary schools to prepare them for the 366 transition. This includes building playgrounds, setting up classrooms internally to be ready to accept the 4 and 5-year-olds, and supporting teachers with introductory ECE training whilst we await formal teacher training opportunities in tertiary institutions, which are on their way.
In a separate interview, Satish Moka further highlighted operations challenges faced by the SDP.
Because we are a self-funded organization and our purpose for existence is providing long-lasting benefits for the people of Western Province, we are able to sustain our operations. We have created infrastructure in the Balimo precinct, which has got a teachers college, building a nursing college. We have a model school over there, and we support our aerial health patrols, which covers about 61 communities across Western Province. We have that support structure in Balimo. Logistics is a challenge in Western Province because of the limitations of access. That is one. And secondly, as we speak, there is the challenges of security because of the rascals' activity in Western Province. So we have to call off quite a few health patrols at the last minute when we come to know about the rascals' presence. Security is a challenge.
Nelson says education, of course, is the key to achieving sustainable development. It is the most important factor in reducing poverty, inequality, and promoting economic growth.
As the World Bank highlighted in its most recent economic update on PNG, and I quote, "For PNG's resource wealth to translate into sustainable growth that benefits all, more investment is needed in PNG's most sustainable resource, its people. This means ensuring that every child is in school and that time spent in school results in learning." For this to happen, collaboration with NGOs and the private sector is a mechanism that should be of importance. We prioritise community-driven, government-supported, long-term and holistic initiatives, which are critical if you want to see real outcomes.
After the break, machines clear our homes, gardens, schools and churches, and settlers struggle to pick up where life left off after bush wara. After 30 years of battling court battles over land portion 2156, 2157 and 2159 at Bushwara 9-mile area in Port Moresby, settlers have finally and reluctantly moved out of the land belonging to Number 1 Super Limited as per a court order. The 120-day grace period given by the court finally ended on July 10th. Despite a number of attempts to prevent the eviction, on July 11th, police guided the eviction exercise. Police carried out awareness to settlers to move off the land during the entirety of the grace period. 5,400 men, women and children have had to seek refuge with relatives or find alternative accommodation after being forced by a court order to vacate land portion 2156, 2157 and 2159 at Bushwara 9-mile area in Port Moresby. This area was occupied by thousands of families. There were established schools and church buildings. Now it is deserted because of a court ruling that did not go in favor of the residents. They were labeled squatters and told to vacate the land within 120 days. Land title holder, the Number 1 Super Limited, came in with a bulldozer, accompanied by police to clear out every trace of human settlement. After 30 years of court battles, the Waigani National Court ruled in favor of Number 1 Super Limited as the legal owner of land portion 2156, 2157 and 2159. The land portion represents over 200 hectares of land. It accommodated for years hundreds of households, 6 schools, 5 churches and over 5,400 people. The settlers were notified by NSL to vacate the land 3 years ago. In March this year, after the court ruled in favor of NSL, the settlers were given at least 4 months to move off the land. Police and the sheriff's office carried out awareness in the settlement during this period, being civil about the whole process to ensure the smooth flow of eviction. The court order lapsed on Wednesday, July 10th, and eviction began on July 11th. The eviction exercise continues to this day.
We stopped only 10 years. We ran in 11 years of Swara. We said, Nangi started. House from Starbucks. Now, Mirausi. Tomorrow, I'm Abnun Minos. I will go.
Me come along here in 2018. Stop because na me work man block government too. But government no thingy me. So now me lose work block me na me stop too. Ground mol papa ground work lo salim lo gen me practicing. Na papa ground ole government me plan ole go finish so me plan make one again. I'm not at hope.
Me plan come stop lo almost 15 years now. So now much me plan thing say ground blow me plan this time me plan start me plan buy him na this like so by the time me plan buy na to so no got ground blow na ba once so me plan no got top blow go lo one up to no got place logo because the same time me plan blow come lo na plan buka.
During the eviction exercise, one settler occupying land portion 2157 took NSL to court, seeking compensation to pay for damages that has been caused when dismantling his properties. The court dismissed the application and referred the matter to mediation to further mitigate the issue. Additionally, police in NCD apprehended 5 men and 1 woman for burning the country's national flag during an illegal protest by bourgeois squatters 1 day before eviction day. Assistant Commissioner of Police and Acting Commander for NCDU Central, Peter Guinness, said the suspects will face the full consequences of their actions. The suspects are currently awaiting court. Since securing the land in 2019, NSL executed all possible options to reach a win-win outcome with the illegal squatters. Substantial time and resources were expended to secure a vacant position of these hazards. NSL acquired the land in 1990 but had to defend its title in court until 2019 when it was granted full titles to these land portions. While NSL was defending its right to the land titles in court, the unsupervised land was over time sold to anyone who had money to buy a piece. In the last 3 years, NSL went so far as to establish a project office on site, a police outpost, and monthly community awareness meetings to continue to remind illegal squatters to relocate voluntarily. NSL CEO Paul Seya said having executed all options, it was necessary to secure the valued assets owned by the 228,000 members of NSL and to proceed with its development plans. NSL intention for the site is as it was 30 years ago, to build new suburb with housing, industrial and commercial allotments, and the infrastructural improvements that come with it, creating thousands of jobs and injecting much-needed capital into the economy.
Land owned by many Papua New Guineans who have been waiting patiently for us to take possession of that land and then for us to actually look at how we can actually develop that land into the future. When we first put forward back many years ago, it was the same messages that we've been talking about, and that is to look at how we could rebuild some suburbs and have them properly planned. So one of the challenges in Port Moresby is that there's a lot of unplanned buildings, and so by us having that ability to take possession of the land, we're able to look at how can we set that particular area up, and that land, if you think about it, is about the same sort of size as a Gerahu. So you'd have a mixture, we anticipate a mixture of things like housing as well as then commercial as well as then community. So having actual proper schools, having space, having proper roads, having water, power, proper facilities put into it.
Saya said NSL appreciates the sensitivity of this exercise and its impact on illegal squatters. However, their mandate is to protect the interest of 228,000 members. Additionally, NSL has provided sufficient opportunity and time to the illegal squatters to voluntarily relocate. When we come back, former Kumul and Super League star on a mission to instill values of rugby league in children. Former PNG International and Super League Al Kingston Rovers legend Stanley Gene is challenging young PNG Rugby League players to use the game as a pathway to learn values and positive things about life that guide them towards achieving life goals and dreams. Gene was born in Gorkha, Eastern Highlands Province. After playing in the 1995 Rugby League World Cup for Papua New Guinea, he was offered a contract to play for Hull Kingston Rovers in the old second division. After moving to the United Kingdom, Gene played for Hull KR from 1996 to 2000. He scored 94 tries in 111 matches during that period and was a massively popular figure at the club. Story short, since Gene retired in 2008, but his love and passion for the game continues to drive him to share with the next generation values and wealth of knowledge and experience that rugby league has taught him.
Well, Hull Kingston Rovers club legend Stanley Jean is here tonight. There he is, along with John Oakle, who he used to play with.
From his humble upbringing as a settlement kid, the favorite son of Goroka was quite excited to be back home to see family after 7 years prolonged by the COVID pandemic. Gene plans to return home and help encourage and inspire the young boys and girls in the settlements to go to school, set goals, and aspire to be somebody. Since his retirement in 2008, the former Goroka Ilhanis trailblazer has continued to involve himself in the game in a mentoring capacity, targeting school-aged children who aspire to be rugby league players in future. His program runs under his new company, Gene Aspire. Before he flew back to the UK, Gene visited the St. Joseph International Primary School in Port Moresby to share his personal experiences of growing up in a settlement, the challenges he went through, his education, and his passion for playing rugby league and the journey that took him to the UK. Gene also reflected on his early playing days of the 1990s and how the rugby league journey took him across to the other side of the world with very little English, the culture barriers, and the cold climate, which was quite overwhelming for a settlement kid.
But yeah, we did a couple of PowerPoint presentation challenging them about my walk of life that parallel with the education way of life. Spoke to the grade 12s, the grade 10s, and it's about setting goals in life. You know, you come into school, your parents paid all that money. You know, they work hard for it to bring you into school. So are you coming to school just to see your mates and hang around, or are you coming and have a drive and have a goal to set and see what the future picture that you hold, what you're going to achieve in the future rather than just coming to school. So that's sort of the same thing as we play in rugby. I want to represent Goroka-Lanis, and when I finish representing Goroka-Lanis, my goal is to represent Kumul. So when I represent the country, I thought that's my goal. That's the pinnacle that I can reach. But there's more to that, because then professionally the clubs are coming in, and I didn't know that you can go and play overseas for the game you love and getting paid for it. So that was my another goal to set. So when I went over, I want to stay there forever. I want to play as long as I can. So that's the goal for the kids. From year 8, when you're doing exams, you come to school, you do your homework, you get yourself ready. Coming to school, I had a lot of issues like them smoking, chewing betel nuts, drinking. These are things that later on in life, when you start, getting to university and getting proper jobs, you can do that. But when you're at school, we got to get our head around what our parents paid their hard sweat money that they earn for us, thinking about the kids' future.
Guinea praised and supported the rationale behind the PNG Hunters program, but said there must also be an academy program targeting more teenagers so they can be exposed to the QRL high-performance programs and systems in the early stages of their development. With the PNG Hunters program now in place, a number of players are transiting to overseas competitions like Super League, the QRL competition, and the New South Wales Cup. Guinea said the Hunters Academy is the system for under 16 to under 18 years of age. This would add another dimension and value to the current Hunters program, with more emphasis on character building and good values of life.
Hunters is the stepping stone for players to come through. And if some of the players are coming through and playing and they're good enough, just send them on to New South Wales competition, Q Cup competitions, send them across. They live in a different world, different cultures. They'll learn outside the country, like myself. Send some to France, send some to England. The more players that we send away, the more experience they bring back. So Hunters should be a pathway that goes through the system. We should have another Hunters Academy, so the young kids are flowing through, so it's not stopping the system. So the academy, when they're 16 is 15 years to 18. By the time they pass 18, they can go on to Hunters if they're good, or if they're not, they can go back to the industry or state competition. And then it just runs through. So we get all the young kids coming through. There's no blockage on the conveyor belt. Everything is running.
While education takes precedence over rugby league, Guinea said back in his time, and with the little education he had, his rugby league journey and the opportunity to play for several clubs in the Super League was a real blessing in disguise. Guinea's love and passion for the game continues to drive him to share the values and wealth of knowledge he possesses. Guinea concluded with a quick recap of his early playing days of the 1990s and how his rugby league journey took him across the globe.
We played together, in the 90s, and couldn't speak much English. You only learn them at school, and when you go abroad, it's a different country altogether. You're playing with different diversity of players from all over the world, and the language barrier that you go through, and the experience of living in a proper house and using a proper toilet, and there's a lot of experience that you can go through, but it's about how you get your head around it, have the discipline in life to do it. And there's a lot of players out there who are fighting to make a living out of it. So when you're there, you got to be focused driven, have the discipline, and have the patience as well to wait. That's these sort of things I need to get back and tell the story to the schools all around the country, especially in Port Moresby, and challenge the young kids. They are our future, and if we can change a bit of them and make them better citizens, the country would be great.
And that wraps up another edition of Scope. Thanks for your company. Good night.